Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Neil Twa, investor, entrepreneur, speaker, author, and also a podcast host. Neil, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story?
All right, simple terms. I grew up with the internet. So not the internet of cell phones, but the internet of the internet, which was coming online when I was in college, which was good. It actually saved me. I went to school to become a musician, and I come to find out I was good, but I'm not that good. I was going to live in a van down by the river, which is cool today, but not cool back then. So I switched gears and got into business management and took the idea that internet and e-commerce was something I wanted to do, digital commerce, and rode that into the corporate world for a while because that's where the money was being spent. Got into a startup called Sprint PCS, which launched some of the first mobile phone devices into the internet, which was fun because that grew extremely fast. I was the 5,000th badged employee. I was working as a contractor doing development, and I applied for a full-time job, and they said, hey, you're in, come on in. And I was helping to manage the infrastructure of knowledge and information that they were using to support the cell phones from the divisions, the business, the marketing, and the customer reps. And that took off extremely fast. We got to 80,000 employees and 25,000 reps by the time that I left. The project was pretty successful. We had done the first implementation of knowledge management and infrastructure into an enterprise, which had search engine and learning engines and machine language learning behind it. It was one of the first times that had actually entered the market. And then IBM said, hey, you're doing a great job with this project. You've done so well. Why don't you come over and help us manage some projects like this in IBM? And so they hired me into IBM, which was fun. No degree, but I figured out real quickly, it's who you know that gets you somewhere, and it's, gets you in, and it's what you know that keeps you there. And I really knew what I was doing. So that got me into a year, almost 5 years with IBM, which was great. And it was fun. I learned more about artificial intelligence and machine language and knowledge management and systems, and worked in high tech and oil and gas and all these cool industries, and got to sit on the boards of some of the largest companies in the world, and got to spend some time in New York City and Wall Street, which was fun. And it was just a really cool ride. But I realized, I'd always wanted to be entrepreneurial with the internet. It just wasn't the right time. And in 2005, my mentor, who was my uncle, died. He was kind of my rich dad in terms of knowledge and information and business, as where my dad had, spent 30 years working as a hardworking blue collar guy and didn't really talk about money, and didn't, finish graduating from high school. And he's just an amazing guy with the hardworking and perseverance and just all the things that, a man and a father should be. He just didn't talk about business and money. And I had no idea how to do that, but my uncle did. And he died in 2005, which kind of left me a little bit of a spin out in a couple of years until I figured out it was definitely something I needed to do now. IBM just came in and said, hey, guess what? You can do it sooner. We'll give you early retirement. And I said, okay, I'm out. So fired the man and left, right? And launched that. In the same year, I got married. I started my business. And then we found out we were pregnant in that same year. And then she went on bed rest. So we went from having good and great dual income, high income earners, getting our first child, no income, and starting a new business. So, that the epitome of being concerned about when to start a business in life, that was full throes. That was in the middle of it all, right? I have 4 daughters. I've spent the last 17 years in business for myself since then. Launched a number of high-tech businesses in oil and gas, and in the marketing and mobile space, and in the e-commerce space. I really dialed into the physical private label brand side of the e-commerce space. I had digital, and I wanted to own the actual products and kind of control the whole thing. And I launched those in 2012, had our first successful 7-figure brand around 2015. And then from there, just kept launching multiple brands. Went on to teach other people and coach and consult with a lot of companies, both startup and large, 30, 50 million plus in size, and launched a lot of brands ourselves, done more than 8 figures in sales a year on the business. I have 8 or 9 brands under our control now, 20 within our brand control, and are now acquiring businesses. First one hopefully will be acquired by the end of this month in February, depending upon when you're listening to this recording. And then we have 2 more right behind that are in LOI as well, and a goal of it trying to acquire a minimum of 5 of those companies this year as part of a private equity portfolio that we're a part of now. For operations and control and growth. So kind of went to full circle, went through all the Kiyosaki quadrants of life, if you're very familiar with that, and even played the rich dad poor dad thing before you knew it was happening in my life. But yeah, that's kind of me. Now I'm busy talking about brands and doing deals and building more brands, and, working on exiting and acquiring brands is kind of the overall thing that I do now during my week.
Amazing. I have so many questions I want to ask.
Okay, cool. I'll try to keep that down to a simple summary. Hopefully that was not boring.
No, that was really interesting, and I really like how you switched the industries, and as you said, went from one quadrant of Kiyosaki to another.
Yeah, I pivoted.
Yeah, that is amazing. So it's a success story as it should be. And what I would like to know about the brands,
Yeah,
digital world, so much have or has changed over the last 20 years.
yeah,
Um,
it has changed.
when we went to college, they all talked about marketing management from Kittler, and we read all this stuff. And now we are more in economy that is based on attention. So, what is the key to make
Hmm.
or starting a good brand in this attention economy, if I may call it so?
Well, I mean, branding today is a matter of something as simple as popping off a viral video on TikTok and getting a million people to see your brand and buy your products and become become a recognizable influencer or a brand influencer or even the product influencer if it's your product. So brand can be a number of things today: a personal brand, a social media brand, a physical brand, a private label brand. These are all brand types. For us, we've really focused on the brand strategy of the physical product itself, and then can tie in user generated content and influencers into the back end to kind of create more of that viral effect, that social and audience conversation that happens out there in the public square. But for us, incubating the products and determining brand opportunity, we started on Amazon with that because it was a great way to incubate the products. It's, in 12 years, that's changed dramatically since Amazon has now taken over, most of the market share in the United States, 50% of it for, product delivery and brandability. With that, I can create a brand no one's ever heard of. I can leverage Amazon's brand and customer base in order to take it to market, and I can incubate it to 7 figures or more while discovering the rest of the market opportunities, the rest of the product opportunities, and then move it into additional channels of sales beyond Amazon to increase its value, to increase its intrinsic value towards its acquisition, and to put it towards a place where it's in a multi or omni-channel strategy across multiple channels, acquiring customers, building up subscriptions and revenue, and servicing a larger customer base across the rest of the market, even across the rest of the world. So it really has to do with understanding, which particular types of products or what the heck do I actually sell in the marketplace. And that's an iterative conditional process of learning to move from a consumer-driven mindset to a business and producer mindset, right? Which takes time to condition away, 21 days, to change. 18 minutes a day for 21 days, and you'll change anything you want to change. And then putting yourself in an understanding of what the actual numbers and metrics should look like. What do I actually sell is also defined by how much profit I can make on that product to build the business, grow the business, pay myself, hire other people, get the going concern to a position where it could change my lifestyle, change my family's business opportunity or financial opportunity, create generational time and wealth freedom, and give you the opportunities you hope it would become. Just know that on average, it takes 3 to 5 years to build a going concern that can be going for the next decade. Most businesses fail, 92% of them by Department of Commerce statistics fail within years 4 to 5. 8% survive. So what is the difference in my business in 17 years and the multiple businesses that I've created? What's the 8% difference? And it usually gets down to choosing the right product, right narrative, and right operator, right? And with the profitability and operational controls that continue to pivot and grow in the market, you can take a physical product brand and continue to move it year over year, innovating and adapting that product and brand so that it stays in the market for a long time. Because mostly brands live on and products die. They have a life cycle, right? And if you build a brand, the brand can live on for quite a long time. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm just curious, how do you get the right operator? We hear so much about the right product, and I don't think this is simple in any way. But getting the right operator, how do you go about that?
Yeah, you can get the right product in market, but you need a moment in time in which either through tenacity or a little bit of luck, someone and enough people see the product and it grows some momentum and it sort of takes off, right? Which is one of the difficult things for any startup is to get those people to actually see that product. For the component of the business side, it is really understanding the profitability and growth of the business so that you can sustain its growth over time. And that isn't a product driven narrative at the end of the day. That's a brand driven narrative. So when it comes down to the operator, it's training up somebody who understands that. It's building them through a conditional learning process. They won't inherently know it necessarily in the area of e-commerce. They might know it in business somewhere else. They may have understood it in a real estate deal or a software deal they did or a business they're running. They may even understand it because they got 20 years of business experience inside of a company that produces a product or service. What they won't necessarily understand is, what does it mean to be the business owner who controls that aspect of it? You can have somebody that comes in with 20 years of financing experience, but doesn't understand yet the finances of e-commerce. Learn the finances of e-commerce and become a great operator. Most people think it's all tactical. It's actually an inverse relationship. First, it's strategy. So when I actually wrote the book, Almost Automated Income with FBA, it got misrepresented initially because people thought it was a guidebook, because that's kind of what they expect in the market, is a guidebook. But what they don't need is another guidebook, because you can go to YouTube and get a 19, follow along with a 19-year-old if you want. I've taught a 19-year-old high school dropout how to do this, but it wasn't the mechanics that made him the money. It was actually understanding the strategy of the business. Then he learned how to apply those economics to it. And eventually he even helped retire his dad and put his dad in an operations position and taught his dad how to do it. So we train operators personally in our business up from aspiring entrepreneurs who want to learn how to do this business model. We train them through the conditional effort of learning and spending 12 months going heads down and executing in their own business, right? Done with them, to teach them how to do it effectively, to train them how to become a serious operator, to understand the major 5 points that they have to do in the business, control the business and finance the business, and understand the cash flow and understand the taxation and formation of it, as well as the indemnification of the products in the business and defensibility and the legalities of it, as well as the tactical aspects of their first channel on Amazon and how that actually works. But mostly we teach them the strategy of the business goal and what timelines they should expect to accomplish that goal and what particular metrics they should be able to hit when they target a specific price point and product type in the market. Okay. And from that, they can then follow what's called a 5x5 green light process and identify 5 products that have physical products, of course, and can generate 25 unit sales a day organically. From there, they now have enough time, they have energy, they've got enough money, $300 a day in profit minimum, to understand how they're making money and how to repeat that process, and then train them into an operator status. Over time, we teach them how to become CEOs in years 2, 3, and 4 as the business goes into growth, profitability, hopefully scalability within 4 to 5 years, and then train them how to become CEOs of the business as they're learning the base operations and can then replace themselves, creating a force multiplier situation by getting them out of the marketing and getting them out of the day-to-day stuff and getting them out of their own calendars and getting them out of things they do now, putting them in a CEO position. So we actually train them up from within our enterprise by giving people an opportunity to work with us on a one-on-one situation for 12 months. And then I raise up operators who actually run my companies.
That is amazing. And I'm astonished how realistic you are, because a lot of courses are just, come here, 3-day or intensive 14 days course. And
we call them hopium dealers here in the United States. They're hopium dealers. They got little dime bags of marketing on the internet. It really sells good. It's too good to be true. It's, build $1 million business in 3 to 4 months or 3 to 5 minutes. And it's like a race to out market each other through these ridiculous claims and falsified claims that don't actually, not substantiated by real business, real time in business, and real expectations of capitalization, and specifically the time, energy, attention, and the money or team effort it takes for beyond an individual to reach those kinds of goals. At the end of the day, most people cannot reach them as an individual. They need support. They need help. They needed infrastructure. They needed software. They need other things. They need to know how to walk the process. And that's why I don't have a course. And my program is actually a consulting and software provider with SaaS tools and mentoring and training and information and knowledge bases and chat agents and virtual information sources for just-in-time information, real-time calls and access to us, because I'm building only a small group of operators. I take a very small group of people in, usually 5 to 7 in an intake, and then I shut it off. And I'm only looking to work with the individuals that come through an application process and deem themselves to be in the right mindset initially, to actually do the business. So they're willing to do it. They have the aptitude to do it. They take 100% responsibility for their own business outcome and opportunity by doing it. And they have their own set of goals and objectives that we're kind of working for together in parallel with where I'm going. And my big, hairy, audacious goal is to acquire their company in 5 years or less. So they know when they work with me from the very beginning that the goal-oriented aspect of getting them to do this correctly is to have a going concern that is profitable and a saleable asset within 4 to 5 years that has more than $1 million in seller discretionary earnings. So we can actually acquire it through my PE group. There's a buy box that I'm looking to hit. And when that buy box goes, I basically tell my PE group, this is a company that I have an interest in. Here's an operator. Here's a business. Would you take a look? And they pull it to the top of the list and say, yeah, let's take a look at that business first. So that's my big, hairy, audacious goal. And my win is really for an acquisition of that company.
Yeah, that is amazing. It's really the concept that everyone is looking for. And because I do believe that business needs like 3 to 5 years to mature.
Minimum 3 to 5 years. And if not taken with the right time, energy, attention, and money, then what you're going to find is that they don't have the legs to reach the point of success because it doesn't come in the time frame that I want to define it. It comes in the time frame when the business defines it by market and sales and opportunity potential. And a lot of times where people will fail in any business is they fail to capitalize on the opportunity when it presents themselves, either because they didn't realize how much it was going to cost. They have a fear of success and what happens if I risk larger, risk to reward ratio, and or they simply haven't given themselves enough time in the market to capitalize the opportunity, and they simply run out of wind, run out of air, run out of money before they make it. And they end up failing.
I agree. So now to my favorite topic, midlife.
Okay. Midlife crisis or midlifers?
Yeah, midlife crisis.
Yeah. Midlife crisis.
When we start acknowledging that maybe our job is not what we want to do in our life and we would like to find something else. So if someone wants to become an operator, you already said it needs 3 to 5 years. And it's not easy. You said that everyone has to assume full responsibility for the outcome.
Again, if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? That's not a cliche. That's an actual understanding. That's a realistic understanding. Yeah.
Okay, so who should think about it?
Yeah.
Who is the one that should say, okay, I don't want to do my job anymore, and I want to become an operator?
Well, I will tell you about some of the people that are doing it and who they are. Maybe we can define it that way. I've got someone who works 40, 50, 60 hours a week as a pharmacist with 2 kids and a wife, young family, and he's not wanting to spend 50, 60 hours away from the home anymore doing pharmaceutical work and standing there on his feet all day. So he's making an effort and a plan and is now achieving that goal of reaching enough revenue and profit to actually pay himself, pay the business, and be able to look here very shortly at leaving that position because the business is now able to sustain his family. So his goal was to get home. His goal was to get off the road, get off the business, get off his feet, and put himself in that position. He's a pharmacist, and he started when he was he's about 35, 38, somewhere in there. I have another gentleman who is roughly a little bit older than that, 40, 45 years old. He was a fighter pilot, 20 years, military fighter pilot, wanted to get out of the fighter pilot game and wanted to know what his next steps was. Very tactical, very smart guy, quick on his feet. He flew a fighter jet. And he was started to process and became successful at it. And, realized that there were things that out of that process he wanted to do even more importantly by spending time in attention with his family. And that was where the focus came as where is he putting his attention? Where is he putting his freedom, his free time? And at that point, he had no control over his free time. And that's one of the things he wanted to gain back with this process, right? Was control of his free time. I've got another guy who, he's getting close to an exit. He started the business and came in and was very frustrated with the business. He's got 2 young daughters, and the frustration was coming from how much he was making versus how much he was spending in the business. And he didn't understand how to get it to actually move past the $30,000 a month that he had it in sales. And really what it got down to was there was a mental shift in realizing his time, energy, and attention were focused on very future things down the road. And they weren't focused on the activities he should be doing like daily, weekly, monthly right now. So he was so future focused on what if I don't do this? What if I go here? What if I spend that money? What if I don't have the retirement? What if, that he wasn't actually doing the things he needed to do in front of him right now to make this concern an opportunity for his family and for himself that he intended for it to be when he started it all. And he's about to give up. And so we went through more of a restructuring of himself in that time frame to look at it very differently, look at it from a more of an abundance mindset today to create abundance in the future, and then reshifted his understanding of how Amazon's algo and systems actually worked so that he could get the effort that he was putting into it, actually get it to reciprocate correctly, which it wasn't. He was fighting with the system in actuality. We changed those things and he got to 100,000 a month in 4 months. Okay, that was his case study, David LeBlanc. You can check it out on my podcast. The end is that he needed a shift in mindset in order to listen and change the way he was acting. And it was really to stop thinking in this fear-based mindset that now that I got to my midlife, which he is, that what's going to happen, what if I don't have college? What if I don't have this for my kids? What if I don't have enough fund to retire? What if I don't have enough? I mean, it's the same kind of concern over and over again. What if this isn't the right time to start the business? What if my wife or significant other doesn't want me to start the business? What if, I risk the capital and nothing happens? Can I get a guarantee? No. There's no guarantee in life. So these are similar kinds of problems that everybody gets into. Well, I've got kids, Neil, you don't understand. Well, no, I have 4 kids and I've been poor before with 4 kids and went bankrupt in a bad business deal that I had to turn around. I understand what the struggle is. I understand the concerns. I understand the risk. But Neil, you can say that now. It's easy for you to say, well, no, it hasn't been easy. I'm working on this 17 years into it. So, if you think you want to take 17 years to do it, be my guest, but I can actually show you how to do it in 4 to 5 years. So I don't recommend taking 17 years to do it. You can go on your own and take a lot longer and probably cost you 5 to 10 times more because these kinds of businesses can be easily mistaken as simple opportunities because of all the noise that's out there. But in actuality, when you work the process and deploy the capital correctly, they can become great business models, good going concerns with good profitability. You just have to get down to practicality and understanding what's happening. So the joke, is that if you have a midlife crisis, you probably need to look at where you are in midlife and then just look forward and say, well, if I'm 35, that means I'm going to be 70 when I die. Okay, so actually, if I imagine I'm being 70 or 80 right now, and what's that actually look like? Well, then come back to the current time you're at and realize you now have 20 to 30 years ahead of you. Yay, congratulations. You should actually do something about it. You should actually take action. You get one shot at this, and any fear of failure, of success, any fear of whatever business model. This is just philosophical at this point. You could be a real estate agent. You could go out and flip used cars if that makes you happy. You could build an e-commerce business. The end story is it doesn't matter. It's the same mindset at the end of the day. The tactics don't make the money. The mindset and the strategy do. And that is literally reminding yourself that you have a lot of this future ahead of you, but it's not going to be accomplished unless you start working on it now. Unless you start taking 3 feet at a time, 3 feet at a time, 3 feet at a time, and then eventually look up and realize you've got an entire mile, will it not actually occur? You want to get to the end of the mile. So does every 19-year-old life coach, right? But the end result is you're not going to get there with that kind of information without actually taking a walk. So you have to get past your fear. You have to spend money to make money in this world. The idea that anything you can do is completely free and will make you a 7-figure business is a lie sold to you because 99.99% of people will fail at that. The idea that you need to innovate something completely unique, you need to be an Elon Musk, you need to get on Shark Tank, you need to make this completely unique idea that's going to make us $1 million is wrong. That's less than 1% of people's success, right? So the 99% of people who get into a business and become successful with a product or service are the ones who literally get in there, become tenacious, work the process, and eventually find a product or service narrative offer, okay, an irresistible offer in their product or service that goes to the market that they can deliver, produce results, manufacture, create, and do repeatedly, and teach others how to do it repeatedly, and grow it into a good business and a going concern. But for those in their mid-tier life, you really need to stop and look. If I'm 40 and listening to this right now, do I think that I've got until I'm 80? Well, now you've actually become a little arrogant and prideful because statistically, you don't. Statistically, you have until you're about 75, maybe 76, right? And that's an average. So consider yourself on the bottom half of that average and put it into your mind that maybe it's 70. All of a sudden, there isn't that much time left to do the things you think you need to do, to spend the time with the people you want to spend the time with, because in the end, they're the only ones that are going to see you out of this life in the end. So you might want to put more time and energy into them. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. That's amazing. I really think that is one of the biggest dilemma of midlifers. They procrastinate. They first feel sorry for themselves. They feel anxious, as you explained in your case, that your client is or was thinking about the future problems. So that is typical anxiety.
100%. 100%. They're typically thinking on time. Well, Neil, I don't have the time to do this. I have a job, I have a family, I have other things to do. If that's the way you're saying to your head right now, then you've already lost. You failed before you even started. Congratulations. You're a failure. Now what? Well, you move past that point and start looking at this opportunity to become successful when you actually start. Okay. And by the way, the business isn't successful until you deem it successful. And it actually doesn't start until you generate revenue. So up until the point where you get an idea or form a company or whatever, until you sell your first product or service, you actually don't have a business yet. Mm-hmm. So get to that point, and then you can say you have a business, right? This is where people kind of get caught up in the wrong mindsets, wrong ideas. They get caught up in the hopium and the anxiety and the need for the capital or money or change to occur faster. I get it. You want it to happen now. Totally. I understand. I've been there. But don't let desperation and fear kick in. You'll make bad decisions. You'll make classic bad decisions. Okay. You'll go off and invest in an Amazon automation or Walmart done for you nonsense thing because, well, if I just put in the $30,000 or $40,000, they'll do the whole thing for me. And then I don't have to do anything and it's passive and whatever. And like 89% of those are all scams. And they're meant to scam you out of that. So don't fall for that. I have people crying on my shoulder once a month coming in from those saying, please help me get my money back, or look, I lost this money or whatever because they took off and they disappeared. Do it 100% for yourself. Find somebody to help you secure the knowledge and information or tools to get it done the right way so you can go faster. Keep it for yourself until you have a trust relationship with them, and then look at who you could hire and expand out into your business. That's the right approach. That's the wisdom approach, not the amateur approach, right? But take that risk, because one way or another, if you don't ever get started, you're never going to win.
Yeah, and I do believe that there's not one advice that will solve everything. It's a learning curve, and you need to be ready to fail. But if possible, fail in a way that you can recover and move on. But there is a failure on every entrepreneur's.
What is a failure? As I tell my kids, what's a failure? And their answer, and they'll tell you, is to quit. That's the failure. The failing in the process of business or learning is to fail forward or fail up. It's to continue the process by which you learn, try again, learn. If you don't actually learn something from the mistakes out of it, you've not actually accomplished anything. So without that, you're never going to see any of that success. My room is filled to the top of this room with failures. It literally is. There's a dead, buried bunch of bones and dead stuff behind me that just didn't make it. Ideas that died, businesses that tried, situations where I thought the product was going to be great and it just wouldn't sell enough. And so we had to ditch it and move to another one, and brands that we thought were really going to go, and they started to go and everything looked great. And then all of a sudden it's just like it wouldn't live. And so we had to kill it. Like there's just many of that occurs in any process of business. It's tenacity and perseverance and pivoting that the entrepreneurial will win. And if they can't come into it with that frame of mind, if they have to have a guarantee, if they need a guaranteed income to replace their W-2, then don't leave your going concern until you have enough profit in your business for at least 3 months before quitting your other endeavor, whatever it is, or changing your business model, or starting a new line, starting this kind of business model while doing another business model. One way or another, don't, stay focused on what's making you money, but be willing to try and get something new going as quickly as possible, giving it a realistic amount of time.
Thank you. These are incredible insights. And before we conclude, I would like to ask you for another insight, maybe trick of the trade that you can share with our listeners and viewers when they would consider going online and in e-commerce. What is the number one thing that they should be aware of?
Well, usually it's around time and money. So let's address those two because they're kind of one in the end. One has to do with what time you put in. The other one is how much money you put in with the time that you're putting in and how invested you get. We say don't marry your products, steal someone else's girlfriend instead. So when we come in here, there is a number of products that you will try to make sure you figure out what's working. The time involved will be however long it takes you to get through the process of doing it. There's expectations of when you would do things in the time that's required to do them to help push you forward and help motivate you to stay on focus and on point for what's going on. But at the end of the day, time is sort of a relative statement. We all have the same amount of time. It's the one thing we can't purchase enough of. Okay. It's not an infinite resource. So if we're going to use our time, we need to use it wisely. And when we do use it, we need to remember that it is prioritizing the time that is most important. If it is not a priority for you, you will not make the time for it. Okay. If you go to your kids and say, hey, instead of saying, I can't do that right now, you tell them, you're not a priority. Learn how the language changes the effect. Speaking the language is acting the language. If you can tell your family they're not a priority, be very careful with that, right? Because you're now prioritizing other things above what's purpose and value over maybe what's profitable. And we need to be careful with that, because as we speak that out in abundance, we have to be careful what comes back and what we will gain from those efforts. So really the number one thing for people to understand is to spend their time wisely. Spend it as though it is a currency that is not unlimited, as though you do not have an infinite amount of days left to do these things, that you may regret never trying it. So you might as well try it. And when you do, put your whole heart into that effort, because you're never going to really work it well if you don't. And then give it whatever time is going to be required to do it. Do not collapse time into your space, but allow time to become what it is. And whatever time frame you're giving that is going to be in abundance. And if you give in abundance, you will usually receive in abundance.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. Neil, where can our listeners and viewers reach you?
Sure. If any of this interests you and you want to apply or at least look at what we're doing at Voltage, we have spots we open each month. Then you can go to voltagedm.com. That's voltagedigitalmarketing.com. And voltagedm.com, there's training, there's a book you can get for $4.99 on the digital copy. You can grab a paperback copy off Amazon. You can watch our trainings. You can get into our newsletter and get tips and information and stuff what's happening about the Amazon and e-com world right now, because we do multiple channels beyond Amazon too, full e-commerce. And, give me a message if you think you might be interested in learning more about what we do.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.